All right. So, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Look, the main thing I wanted to do is just to get the diverse views all the way from Tasmania over to WA. And obviously, Helen, your program is a very unique focus from a national level, and the 140 facilitators, Melissa, that you work with. Obviously, Da's got just massive insights from regional, as well as working with the overseas stuff with ag. How do you guys think that went, and what were your main takeaways?
I actually really loved hearing what other people were doing. You were saying it before, Isabel. You know, it's just, again, it's like anything else. When you feel that you're often by yourself struggling against something, to understand that there is a community out there that, you know, if we rally together and work together as a team, just the impact that we can have can be massive. You know, I'm dealing with a cohort of people that often people will disregard, but they are intelligent, have so much, you know, so much talent locked up in prisons that if we can just, you know, release that in a way that is community positive, it does us all good. It creates safer communities. So to me, it's a no-brainer to sort of be working with this cohort of people, but it is quite diverse, and that has been a real challenge because we have no funds whatsoever at all. We're purely voluntary, so it has been a challenge. And so I think, you know, being able to connect in with networks who can be fearlessly compassionate, which is our motto, would be really beneficial for us. And I appreciate your time and your thoughts today.
Yeah, something that is coming up to me now is, you know, sometimes we talk a lot about collaboration and sharing, and I feel like we miss out on a lot of the delivery and the execution. So how can we actually get practical about not only sharing what we're doing and knowing what we're doing, but starting to deliver it together? So I don't know, Helen, when you're talking about like, we do run two programs that, for example, She Codes is all about, you know, teaching and empowering women to get into tech jobs. And a lot of them are changing careers. So, you know, we could have an official partnership to get people from your program to be upskilled into tech, and then we can get them a pathway into technology, you know? Yeah,
absolutely. We've been really innovative with what we're doing. We developed Australia's first digital studio inside a prison. Yeah. That's graphic design, virtual reality, CAD, a bit of tech. But, you know, that would be fantastic, is this, jointly sharing delivery of programs would be fantastic.
Something that we've been talking a lot about here in WA is also understanding what is a pathway. So for example, if we go until a level of very like early stage pre-seed, so what comes next? And then we're partnering with better labs like the major venture fund here and Perth Angels, because we know that they are the next step, you know. So understanding what is this pathway, you know, how do we engage with the university? So we know that Bloom from UWA is what comes previously to Sprint. So we have people getting out of Bloom, coming into Sprint, or getting out of Curtin Ignition, coming into the accelerator program, and then they go into Better Labs. So like, if we could actually help all the participants navigate throughout all the programs and maybe have a very like objective implementation focus on how we can act together. Like, think together is great, but how can we actually act together? That could also be super cool.
I think that's a huge one. And when Chad and I talk about what this, you know, future looks like, and we've said, you know, maybe putting a project out there that people can work on, but I think the projects are existing, and it's more about like saying, hey, we're doing this project, who else can collaborate with us, who else has got programs that we can leverage off, and trying to be able to make some of those connections. Because I couldn't agree more. We talk about collaboration, but we don't practice it, and we don't actually get the impact and the value out of it that we can and we should. So how do we actually make that happen? And bringing together, and like Claire just wrote it there, like the integration of programs. Yes, like why replicate?
Yeah, and I like what you're talking about, Isabel, about the, I guess the whole sort of that funnel process as well, because like I'm starting with 10-year-olds and that sort of stuff, and in high school we've got we worked with 5,000 students across Australia last year to inspire them around being entrepreneurial while they're still in school. So then how do they go to that next step, so that, because especially probably from our perspective, like venture capital is not a pathway you think of in Tassie. You probably don't think of it too much in some of those regional communities unless you've got an amazing idea and you're going down that path. So you're thinking of like, I just want to create a job. And so it's a very different process. So how do we sort of have those different pathways as well that allow people to step through that and share back and forth what those strengths are. But then if they are on those accelerated pathways, they can go into people, that's their strengths and that sort of stuff. But it's, yeah, because like for me, I've had some of the team from SpaceQ be involved in my programs in Perth, which is great to align. And I know I've done a session with the +8 crew before, but it's how do we create those alignments when we are traveling around, when we are doing things, so that whatever we're doing in one place is shared and learned. Yeah. The only other thing we'll add just quickly is that you guys are all very lucky my mic was on mute, because we had a fire alarm drill during that chat. Alarms were going off and I was like, but we didn't have to do the evacuate part, yes.
I had a 14-year-old trying to get into the freezer, so that occupied a little bit, but I think I needed that.
I had the ice cream truck coming up with these ringing bells. So just
nice.
I want to bounce up. I just had a conversation.
Think about, Adam, when you're saying, like, one of the things that we're really also trying to create here is the idea of who are like the big models, because a lot of the time, I'm from WA, who are the big success cases, what are the worldwide Australian success cases, and then who are the worldwide local success cases for each of us individually that are going to make our entrepreneurs think, oh, you know what, if that person made it, I can make it too. So I guess when we integrate our programs and we can actually have the person on the next step coming back and saying, and we do that a lot, for example, Adam, if we can get one of our founders from the Accelerator program to go into the schools, that creates this identification of, maybe if I look into all the American supermodels, I don't identify, I don't relate to that. But if I have someone who's from my community, who I can relate that, who can speak my language, that we see that a lot in the regions too, like
that's absolutely massive for our cohort. They need to really be able to identify. And the problem that I have is that there's not too many entrepreneurs that are going, Chair, I have a criminal history. It's been a little bit difficult to actually find some of those role models who are willing to put their hand up. And unfortunately, we've had to go to America for all of those. But you're exactly right, Isabel. It's not relatable. It's not the same thing. But I love that idea of having that, that next cohort up, because we're so embryonic with what we're doing. We don't have the facility to do that at the moment.
You might actually be building the first success cases, So maybe in 4 years. Like, this is starting, like, our accelerator program is in the 4th year. So it's super cool, because now we're actually having our first own saying, this guy actually got out of +8, and now he's nailing in the States. But it takes some time to build the first success cases. But still within us, you can get someone that is at least more relatable, that the more we have in common, the better.
I think the flip side of that, though, as well, is that for us who may be really well established in our regional ecosystems and our local communities, like, we're part of the furniture. They know we exist. They know what we do. Like, you'd go around northern Tasmania and my name would pop up somewhere in a conversation. And that just means that we're very used to having these sorts of people around. And so the ability to collaborate and co-deliver means that we can bring someone else who has similar skill set, similar passion, but hey, you've got a different city that you live in. Like, I've done young entrepreneurs events in Fremantle and in Alice Springs that I've had more attend there than I have in Launceston, because someone can run into me on the street. And I think that's potentially where that co-delivering can be really beneficial as well. How do we share the expertise across this country into places where they might not go, but then also as we're going around and potentially holidaying and doing other things, how do we just drop in and say hello? Because this is not like a 9-to-5 job for any of us. This is a passion. We love doing this sort of thing. So then how can we sort of, go above and beyond? But then, because people will pay attention, and sometimes if they hear it from that and they go, wait a minute, they're saying the same thing that the person in my ecosystem has been saying for the last couple of years, I'm going to trust them a little bit more. Great. Like, if that's what it takes, fine, good. We'll just do that. but that can be a really great way to actually add value across the communities. And I even see that going globally with stuff, that there's real great benefit in that, to share those insights, and people will come out for someone from a different place.
You and I have had this conversation a long time, especially at the ecosystem building level.
Mm.
I think when we did Pitch First, Adam, that was like the whole point. It was, you know, bringing the Australia Post better into communities and going, yep, this is great, but look at this person and look what this person is doing in your community. Like that, being able to that group mentality is so important, like bringing us all around the table and going, look what that person's doing in their community and lifting them up. And I think the power of the cohort of all of us is super powerful.
I think the legacy of that as well, just quickly, like I still have Australia Post people involved in all those locations that we go back to, and they're still engaged. And then the ecosystems have come out and been engaged. And I think it's finding those big sort of, how do we have those sparks and then look at that tail momentum so that we can keep doing stuff and keep building that, so that this just becomes the norm. This is what we do. We work together. We go into schools. We go into shared spaces. We run sessions. We do digital hangouts. This is the norm, rather than we just sort of do something really big and then it sort of all tails off. So it's important how we think of that.
I think that's also really good. Oh, sorry, Chad, you go.
No, I was just going to say, it also ties into Melissa's program in that, you know, all of a sudden we have this injection of 140 people who can kind of drop in. They're not part of the furniture and come in and help with a bit of a different thinking framework, but also the training they get from a professional level. Then we can very openly steal and take all of the things and the toolkits and everything, and the modified business model canvas and all these other things of, oh, that's a different way of thinking. And hopefully we can then, you know, the regions can then share back, and the facilitator may say, I haven't thought about that.
I was writing notes on that actually, Chad. So I'm thinking the same way. I think, you know, we do have a place-based model with the program, and the ability for advisors and facilitators to really get to know the local ecosystem, and some do it really well, exceptionally well. And I know around Newcastle, for instance, we've got a very live, hyper-connected community there that our advisors and facilitators lean into. So absolutely, when I made a note about some of the tools that we use and adapt, and most of them we develop internally, just using the brains trust of 140 people coming together. And we should be able to release those out to the ecosystem to use. So if we've modified a business model canvas, we have a tool we've been using for 2 years now, which is delivering incredible results with clients, called a UPAT, which looks at user, purpose, aspirations and tenants. And it's a new way of thinking about strategy for businesses in an ever-changing environment. So it's we should be releasing those to the broader ecosystem. It's public money being invested in developing them. So I've taken notes, and I'm more than happy to keep being involved and sharing wherever we can as well.
I think with me on that, just thinking about that as well, like we've got, like in the Van Diemen project, we have subject matter experts. We have a range of people who are private consultants, do a range of things, but they actually just want to help out in the ecosystem as well. And so they do just come in and be part of it and offer their time freely with, great expertise. And I think that's the sort of thing. And I know we've got, we do have a good relationship with the local person from the Entrepreneurs Program, Damon, as well. But it's really interesting to see the amount of people that want to come out and support. And one of the things I think we've talked about the ecosystems, but one of the things that we're starting to be more aware of is people also need some curation and some guidance through that, because they get a bit freaked out by that. And that's where, for sometimes actually having, how do they sort of come in and be supported, rather than, hey, you're all in the ecosystem, you're all in a room, come in and do it, has been one of those things that we've started to put some more time in. How do we guide people through it and connect them with the right people, and have a great group of people that we can support the journey of individuals through, rather than just a great connected community that people just pick up things as they can.
Yeah, I think part of that stuff that we're talking about in terms of those tools, also the mindset ones that occur with this as well. You know, especially for our cohort, that mindset shift is critical, and that chance of self-belief and you know, dealing with building resilience and dealing with adversity and things not actually working. We often look at Lean business model canvas, and many of these are the technical tools that deal with the actual business itself, and yet the mind often gets mislaid a little bit within that, or it's so I mean that's something that I'd be really keen to look at, collaboration around some of those tools, or using some of those tools that we can really help build that resilience of the entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, I really like this idea of the curation and structuring, and this is also probably something very good for the government itself. Like, I think, especially like in COVID, how many guidelines of amazing resources we have, for dealing with the crisis have you guys seen? We just in Space Cube, we have one for each program, and all the other rest that we receive, and etc. And I guess it can get quite overwhelming, the amount of tools and resources that are being created, the amount of webinars that, so how can we as ecosystem leaders help not only create more, but curate what is actually helping the most? How can we find the best resources, or how can we simplify? Because what we find a lot also in our programs is a lot of the times the entrepreneurs are just overwhelmed. If you're starting a business, it's just so much. Like we always say that in Sprint, which is our pre-accelerated program, one of the key things that we offer is a structure on how to do, a simple step-by-step, because that week you're only going to be using one template, and you're only going to have one homework. You're only going to be talking to your customers, or you're only going to be talking to your business model, because otherwise you have so much in your to-do list that you freak out and you start to get anxious because it's so overwhelming. So I guess it's also our job to think, how much should I create? How much should I structure? How much should I curate? How much should I partner? How much should I just recommend them to go watch some? Like, do I really need to create another masterclass? Or can I tell them to go and watch someone else's masterclass? And how do we work together so we don't have rework as an ecosystem?
I might just take that one from there, because we'll need to wrap up. But I actually had a really good phone call today, and we've been doing these emails back and forth as far as where to from here. Obviously we have a Slack, we have a whole bunch of people engaging, but I think exactly what you just said, Isabel, is one of the things that we're going to be spinning up next, is creating these cohorts of project teams. For example, the one I spoke to this morning is getting entrepreneur training into the curriculum in high schools. And there's a whole bunch of people that are working on that in universities across Australia. How do we get those people in the same room? There's a whole bunch of thought leaders working on very discrete solutions for the ecosystem. How do we get a whole bunch of different types of programs, from the startup on-ramp to different pre-accelerators in one thing, so we have a bit of a shopping list, and so we can collaborate, work together? That's a question with an answer that I think about 15 to 20 people can get in a room and solve that within about 3 months. And so that's probably one of the next evolutions for the Slack channel. Is it going to stay Slack? Don't know, we'll see. But it's just this community that's now come together that I think we can mobilize for action on some of the things we spoke about. I do definitely just want to thank you, everybody, for participating. Di, thanks heaps for coming along and facilitating. I love just the work you're doing in chat and kind of keeping people, because I'm like clicking things, making sure the web link works for everybody and stuff. So thank you for keeping them warm. You guys gave such gold today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad.
Lovely to meet you.
Thanks for the invitation, Chad. Great to
Good,
meet you all.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
guys.
All right, thank you for that.
Bye.
Bye.
See you all.